Hey everyone, this is James and welcome back to another SimWrecker review. Today we are going to be looking at Storm's new Proton PhysiX. This ball released last weekend and it is their new sanded asymmetric hook monster, snow tire, yada 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 type ball in their Premier line. It brings together some familiar elements. It's got the same cover as the Axiom and the same atomic core as the PhysiX and the Astrophysics. So it's going to kind of feel somewhat familiar to those balls, but also a little bit different at the same time. So let's go on ahead and get right into it. I'm testing here on the house shot at Buffalo Lane's carry. This pattern felt like it had been sitting out for probably a day or so. Not a whole lot of volume in the front part of the lane, as you can see by how it's kind of hooking pretty early and not really doing a whole lot down lane. If you watch some videos of balls like this being tested on really long and heavy oil type patterns, you'll see a lot more definition to the ball motion down lane, and that's when stuff like this is really going to shine. So it's not looking as good here. But what's really impressed me about this ball is that even with that, it's pretty clearly not like the perfect ball to be throwing, but it's still knocking pins down. And that's something that has really surprised me about this ball, is the PhysiX, which this ball replaced essentially. The PhysiX, when it was in play, it was very much in play, but when it wasn't, it was tough to kind of get something usable out of it, versus this, the Proton PhysiX, a little earlier and a little smoother versus the original PhysiX. Feels like I can actually use it in a wider range of situations than the original PhysiX. The downside of this, though, is it is still an extremely strong ball. I've raised the surface on mine from factory surface. It comes at 2,000 grit from the factory. I hit mine with a 3,000 grit pad about 3 shots in, and I've just been letting it lane shine from there, and you can still see it's extremely early, very rolly down lane. It does need a whole lot of oil, and as we kind of look to some comparisons, you'll see how these differences play out. The first one we're going to look at is the Proton PhysiX, which is pinned down, versus my pin up Omega Crux. And this is the Omega Crux has a little weaker core. The core from the Crux series tends to not be quite as dynamic as what's in the PhysiX line, and it's also got the GI-20 Pearl cover stock. So what you're seeing here is kind of the Omega gets down the lane a little bit more. I'd say probably a 2 to 3 foot length gap in this testing here at least, but it's also lazier down lane, and I'm attributing that more to the core difference and kind of how it shapes off the end of the pattern. So you can see the PhysiX is creating a little more traction, but it's also a little more dynamic off the end of the pattern, which actually kind of gives it a little more range of use in my experience so far. The other comparison is going to be a very familiar one. We're going to compare the Proton PhysiX to my Astrophysics. And you can see here that there's a lot of familiarity in the shapes in terms of how these two react, and that's from how these how the cores, it's the same core, it's different layouts but the same core. But the Astrophysics with this R2S Pearl cover stock instead of the NEX Solid, significantly cleaner through the front part of the lane, and definitely a lot more punch and responsiveness off of friction and down lane. So as you can see here, is still. The Proton is definitely very early. It needs a lot of volume, but it has also looked really good on that volume. I've gotten some good use out of this ball in tournament play, especially in a couple centers where there's a lot more oil in the front part of the lane, and I really need that extra combination of core and cover to be able to dig in more versus something like a Phase 2. But the flip side of it is, I personally don't get a ton of a chance to use this ball because I just don't see enough volume a lot of the time. But here's the good news, is if you really, if you're in a situation where you're throwing like a Phase 2 or an Axiom and it's just not enough ball and you need that kind of next gear to be able to get a little more down lane motion, I think you're absolutely going to love this ball. It does need a lot of oil, and I can't say that enough. I think I've said it at least 4 times so far in this video, and I'm going to say it again. This ball needs oil. But with that said, if you can give it that volume, I think this is very much a worthy successor in the PhysiX line, and this is probably the biggest compliment I can give it. It feels like a PhysiX upgrade to me. I absolutely love this ball. I wish I had a chance to use it more. This is in the no heck bag for me a lot of times when I'm going to tournaments where, if the lanes are just soupy and nothing else is turning, I know I can go to this and it'll get me results. So, as always, let me know if you have any questions. This ball is out now and is available at your nearest pro shop. Good luck and good bowling.